from Functional Senior Fitness, welcoming you to part one of my three-part series on how to get down and up from the floor both safely and securely. Now, I realize that if you struggle with this movement skill, concern about losing your balance on the way down or getting stuck once you are down can discourage you from even trying. That's why I've divided the learning of this skill into three separate steps. You won't be asked to go down on the floor right away, and you'll never be put in a position where you feel off balance or stuck. So if getting up and down from the floor is problematic for either you or a loved one, I encourage you to check out this video and see just how simple restoring that vital movement skill can be. Before going all the way down and up from the floor, you're going to have to learn how to lower your upper body down towards the floor and bring it back up with both strength and balance. In order to do that, you're going to learn the most powerful, functional movement your body can possess, the hip hinge. I'm going to use my trusty Halloween skeleton to help explain this movement. This bowl-shaped bone right here, that's your pelvis, and that's your hip socket. And you're literally going to use that hip socket as a hinge to tilt the pelvis forward and to bring it back up. The imagery often used is that you imagine your pelvis is a box filled with water and you want to spill the water forward. Now, the only problem with a pure pelvic tilt is that it has a tendency to pitch your weight forward, and it can also stress the lower back. That's why when you do the hip hinge, while you're tilting that pelvis forward, you're going to simultaneously reach back with the tailbone and bend the knees on the way down and drive those hips forward, lift the chest and straighten the knees on the way up. This will not only help you maintain your balance, it'll also make bending forward and getting back up safer and easier. Now that you know what the hip hinge is, it's time to practice it. So you're going to start standing tall, feet about shoulder width apart, hands on the thighs. And you're going to do those three moves simultaneously. You're going to reach back with the tailbone as you tilt the pelvis forward, as you bend the knees. For now, only go down as far as your hands cupping your knees. And then you're going to reverse that movement. You're going to lift the chest up, drive the hips forward, and straighten the knees. Now, all the time you're doing this movement, reaching back with the tailbone, tilting the pelvis forward and bending the knees, you're keeping your eyes forward and your back flat the whole time. Practice the hip hinge by doing it between 5 and 8 times in a row, 2 to 3 times a day, as well as incorporating it into your daily life. So whether picking up a package or searching in a low shelf, use the hip hinge. It'll make those tasks a lot easier, and because you'll be moving with your hips rather than your lower back, it may just save you a painful trip to the orthopedist. With a little bit of practice, you may feel like you can go down lower when you do the hip hinge. And if that's the case for you, I encourage you to give it a try. As long as you follow all the rules we laid out for the hip hinge, tailbone reaching back, pelvis tilting forward, knees bending, eyes forward, flat back, feel free to go down as far as your hands halfway between your knees and your ankles. For now, there's no need to go any farther than that. And of course, you're going to follow those same rules we used for getting up. You're going to lift the chest up, drive the hips forward, straighten the knees. If you feel unsteady when practicing the hip hinge, or if you find it physically stressful, chances are there's some flaws in your technique that you're simply unaware of. If that's the case for you, then I invite you to click on the link at the end of this video. There I'll go over some simple solutions to the most common problems people have when first learning the hip hinge. Once you can do the hip hinge at least 5 times in a row with no strength or balance issues whatsoever, while following all the rules laid out for the hip hinge, it's time to move on to step 2. But until then, keep practicing and remember, you're training to increase your own physical freedom, and that's training for what really matters.